Good evening. The Prime Minister has joined calls from other politicians and environmental campaigners to get the bio-bead spillage on the coasts of Sussex and Kent cleaned up, and with real urgency. Millions of the plastic beads are on the beaches and in the sea.
Well, the clear-up across almost 50 miles of shoreline and estuaries is a painstaking process conducted in some cases by volunteers on their hands and knees in bitterly cold weather. Well, meanwhile, there are calls for Southern Water to abandon their use of bio-beads as a way of breaking down effluent.
Southern Water still uses the bio-beads to treat sewage at plants in the southeast, at Eastbourne, where the spillage happened, and at Peacehaven, Beckley and Broomfield Bank. Other water companies are now phasing out their use. The beads from the Eastbourne works drifted eastwards, first to Camber, then to the Rye Nature Reserve, Dungeness and beyond, now coming ashore at St Mary's Bay in Kent. Well, John Ryle has spent the day in Camber and has sent this report.
Continuing today at Camber Sands, it's a clean-up operation without an end date and without any prospect of removing anything close to the 300 million bio-beads now covering 50 miles of the Sussex and Kent coast. The plastic pellets used to clean wastewater and deadly for marine life spilled into the sea when filters failed at Southern Water's plant in Eastbourne 3 weeks ago. Today, the Clean Seas campaign group, Strandliners, is calling for a ban on the use of bio-beads by the water industry.
We're calling for a complete ban of bio-beads in wastewater treatment works. Anything that can stop billions of plastic pellets, potentially toxic plastic pellets, getting out into the environment has to be a step in the right direction. I believe Europe does not have any of these bio-bead plants in their wastewater treatment systems.
This latest Southern Water pollution scandal is nothing short of an environmental disaster, says a marine biology expert at the University of Brighton.
Because the plastic is so light, those beads are going to tend to float on the surface of the water, and so they're going to be available for both animals in the water column, but also for birds that are going to look for prey on the surface. The size, the color of them is also important because they're going to mimic food for various groups of animals. So yes, they are very likely to be ingested by a wide range of animals.
The MP for Eastbourne backs the call for a bio-bead ban and is lobbying number 10.
This environmental disaster is appalling and Southern Water need to be held to account for it. It's my understanding that only 5 out of 365 water treatment plants use these beads, and I've put pressure on Southern Water to investigate using alternatives to minimise the risk of Eastbourne's beaches and the beaches of Sussex and Kent from being so polluted in this way.
We all know the impact, and so we need to look at this particular incident very carefully, but I'm very concerned about this.
As the campaign to ban the beads gathers pace, clean-up teams are now needed on dozens of beaches spanning 50 miles and 2 counties. And how many millions of beads are yet to wash up, only time and tide will show.
And John's with us now. John, what has Southern Water been telling you?
Well, Sangeeta, there are a lot of unanswered questions with this. How big was this pollution incident? Southern Water has never confirmed the quantity of beads involved. How long will the clean-up continue? How many millions of beads will never be cleaned up and will be left to be eaten by fish and birds? And question 4, will Southern Water now do the one thing that would guarantee this never happening again, stop using those bio-beads? Well, in a statement tonight, they say the bio-bead technology was the best available when sites such as Eastbourne was constructed in the 1990s. They say their newer sites use membrane sheets to do the same job. They say replacing the bio-bead technology at the 5 out of 367 wastewater treatment plants that use them is being considered as part of the independent review following this incident on the Kent and Sussex coast, but they say doing so would require major additional investment. So I think we put that down as a maybe.
John in Camber, thank you.
Well, for more, we can talk to Chris Corrigan, who is the Chief Executive of Sussex Wildlife Trust. Chris, these beads, we know they're unsightly. It's yet more rubbish on some of our beaches. But when it comes to the wildlife in the area, it's more serious than that, isn't it?
Yes, we know these beads are going to be here for decades to come, at least. And unfortunately, they are exactly the same size as many of the seeds that the birds eat. So the impacts are going to be there. They're going to be long term. And it's going to be a real challenge to get as many of these beads as possible off the site before the next high tides come through and we get yet more beads into the nature reserve.
And in terms of the effect they can have on birds and sea life, etc., what are they, choking hazard, or is it poisoning? What is it specifically?
Well, at this stage, we just don't know. We don't yet know how toxic the bio-beads are. This is something that I'll be asking Southern Water next week to get much more clarity on. But also, if they start ingesting pieces of plastic, we don't know how these will potentially block the intestines of the wildfowl, particularly the ducks that will eat these bio-beads, and that could have potentially fatal impacts on birds. And we will only find that out in the months and years to come.
I mean, you touched upon it in your first answer, but what would happen if we did nothing? How long would they take to just sort of naturally be dissolved or washed away from the seas?
The trouble is, because they are plastic, they are persistent in the environment. And they are likely to be there for decades, potentially centuries. And this is a problem with plastic and plastic in the environment. So there is no short-term solution to this, bar getting as many of these beads off the site as possible. But what we have discovered is that because they are so small and tangled up in the vegetation, it will be impossible to get them all off. All we can do, working with contractors, is to get as many off as we possibly can.
OK, Chris, we have to leave it there, but thank you very much for talking to us on the programme. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.